It's definitely increased since 20 years ago.
About the same, if not higher.
I think more these days use more alcohol.
I feel like it's more common.
And have more people to go to buy them alcohol.
Popularity and I guess the trend that's almost created amongst young people these days to go out to parties.
Usage of social media, and there wasn't that 20 years ago.
Well, the reason we undertook this study was that we knew that young people were less likely to smoke, drink, take drugs today than 20 years ago. There'd been this big shift, and we wanted to understand why. So one way of doing that was to take some interview data from students who were interviewed 20 years ago and then interview young people now and see what had changed. The school 20 years ago was in a suburban part of a major city. It was a Decile 8 school with quite a diverse student population. So we wanted to find a school that had some of those same characteristics. We talked to 64 students altogether from years 10, 11 and 12. They were quite a diverse group in terms of gender, background and ethnicity. So there were some really striking differences between 20 years ago and today. 20 years ago, over half of the young people in Year 10 were already going out to parties and drinking regularly, whereas we found in today's Year 10 students, very few of them were partying. And even in Year 11 and 12, going out to parties was not that common.
After an interview with two friends and talking about the friendship groups, who they hang out with, where they hang out, what they do during lunchtime or during their weekends. We then did a follow-up interview. That follow-up interview was just a one-on-one interview. We worked really hard to build rapport and a relationship with these young people for them to feel comfortable in talking about how they feel about others who vape or how they feel about their own use or non-use.
But it was exciting seeing them coming in a bit like, all good, this is my cousin. We didn't need the formal introductions or anything. We just got into it and just shared the mawhana or the sense of belonging.
We talked about values and beliefs around drug use or substances or drinking or vaping. We talked about their whānau, we talked about what their aspirations were for the future.
Another interesting theme that I found was them talking about their connections to the church as our new village, or our ainga and their mawhana towards the communities, and also just their alofas to their families, not wanting to bring shame to them just because of who they feel like they are right now.
So one of the other big differences we saw that 20 years ago, anyone who didn't drink was seen as a real nerd or a weirdo. Whereas today it was quite acceptable for young people not to drink or vape or use other drugs, and seemed like quite an acceptable choice.
The students are more likely to socialise at home now compared to 20 years ago, and are also supervised a lot these days than compared to 20 years ago.
Rangatahi who are supported by their whānau are not as interested in substance use.
Young people spend a lot of time online, and that some of those online activities seem to have taken the place of parties and drinking. For example, you can expand your social circle online, you can meet romantic partners online, so the need to go to parties and so on may be less because of that. It's not just New Zealand either, so internationally there's been this big shift in youth behaviour, so what we saw in the interviews really closely matches what we've seen in survey data. Talking to young people is definitely the best part of my job. We were really impressed with how thoughtful and open the young people were speaking with us.